And it's like people should be able to understand autism. Everyone wants to understand all these other stuff going on, and it's like, but we still want to change autism. It's like,
Right.
why?
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to follow us on our social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. Or if you're watching on YouTube, then you know you just got to tap that bell down below, and that way you're connected to all great things Audacious related. Now, I come to you today outside Erin Oak Kids, which is Ontario's largest children's treatment center that provides a broad range of medical, therapeutic, and support services to children and youth with physical and developmental disabilities, autism, communication disorders, and even children who are deaf and blind. It's an organization that my family and I know quite well, as we relied heavily on their services when our now teenage daughter was diagnosed on the autism spectrum at the age of 5 years old. What made the services of Erin Oak Kids so impactful was that it inspired hope and confidence to see a brighter tomorrow for our daughter. Every single one of us has a seed of potential that's inside of us, and we're destined to do great things. As an autism advocate, Jimmy Clare understands this. Having to work through his own personal challenges, Jimmy now uses his platform to help others see exactly what a brighter tomorrow looks like. It really is a great chat that I'm sure you'll all enjoy, because Jimmy really dives into his history and hears about some of the challenges and struggles that he had dealing with bullying and a bunch of other things. Like I said, it's a great chat you're definitely going to enjoy. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Jimmy Clare. Enjoy. Hey, Jimmy, thank you for being here as a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me.
Very cool, very cool. Now, you're a motivational speaker. You're an advocate for autism, which we'll get to get you to speak on a little bit. An author, and you've got a cool company called the CrazyFitnessGuy. So you got a lot on your plate, man. How do you manage it all?
That's my secret superpower.
Juggling.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you loud and clear. So maybe as kind of as a starting point, you can sort of explain what got you into all this.
Well, basically what got me into it all was just a lot of stuff that came growing up. For instance, a school system that didn't know how to help me, or didn't know how to help me improve my skills at my own pace, at my own level.
Right.
Since I didn't check all the boxes off on their list. And then basically 8 years of bullying, which was hell. And also more on the school system side of things. They did some kind of fishy things when I was growing up that really should have been illegal.
Right. Okay.
And I'm just giving you the broad stuff at the moment before we dive into all of this.
Sure.
But basically just a mix of things. And I was like, where I am today, I shouldn't have to go. No one should have to go through all the way to hell and back just
Gotcha.
to get to where they want to be in life. And I was
Gotcha.
like, is there a path that we can skip the annoyance and I can and we maybe not take a whole big shortcut, but at least like skip a few
Right.
years of the tormenting and
Right.
everything.
Right. Right. No, so it sounds like what you're trying to do is shorten that timeline for other people.
Yeah, and it's like people should be able to understand autism. Everyone wants to understand all these other stuff going on, but and it's like, but we still want to change autism. It's like,
Right.
why?
Right. Right, right, right. So maybe it's a starting point for those who aren't familiar with autism or have never experienced it or know anyone with it. Maybe you can sort of just kind of give maybe a description of what it is. And I mean, I've got a young daughter who's on the autism spectrum, and one of the things that I know is that people slot in different areas on the spectrum. They're not all the same, right? And so I wonder if you can sort of expand on that a bit further.
Yeah. So I'm going to use myself as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always like to, I say about me on my profile is that I'm slightly autistic, meaning that I I still fall on the spectrum, but just barely. It's like maybe if 3 steps over, or however you want to picture it. And I was talking to someone else who is also on the spectrum, one of my friends, and they basically because the spectrum became so wide, it's not really a spectrum anymore. It's like a tall spider web. And it's like
Mm.
it started with kind of autism in the middle, and then it just branched out everywhere. Uh, and and but basically what it is, it's a different style of learning. Uh, so, for instance, for an example, I'm a person who I need somebody to break stuff up into smaller pieces, like for chunking the information, but also needed uh, a more visual experience. So it's not just, oh, here's some words on the page, because let's say those directions went from A to ABC, but then they skipped over D, and it's like, what happened to D?
Right.
And it's like, how do you get from A, B, C without D? So, uh, and some people on the autism spectrum uh, learn a lot differently than that. Some learn better uh, with just listening. If I'm just listening, I tend to get really bored really quick, and it's like, what are we doing? I have no
Right.
idea.
Right. Right.
and,
Right.
and just taking notes doesn't just work for me because my handwriting stinks, and somebody else's who's writing on a board or something, their handwriting might stink, and say, what does that say?
Mm. Understand, understand. And so I wonder if you sort of talk some of the challenges that you experienced growing up, because I would imagine you had quite a few.
That's an understatement. So, like I said, growing up, I had people tell me a lot of things I wouldn't be able to do. For instance, the data pointed out that I wouldn't be able to cook, wouldn't be able to clean, I wouldn't be able to read higher than a second grade level, uh, just to name a few. The list just went on and on and on. And I was like, where are you getting all this stuff from? The data? And it's like, data can be screwy. I mean, at the time of this, I didn't think any of that. All I was like, yeah, la da da, who cares? I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And so, where it all began is I was born. I had a cholesteatoma in my ear. I had 9 year surgeries. It made me deaf in my right ear for quite a bit of time, and
Right.
until they fixed that. And luckily I was a smart kid. I pointed at every single object, so my parents knew what I was
What
looking
you wanted,
for.
right?
I was like, I was a pretty smart person, even though that a lot of other people didn't think so at the time. I was
Right.
like, because I wasn't talking at a certain age, I was walking at a certain age. And I was like, hypocrites, were you? I was like, were you walking at a certain age? I was like, I would like to know.
Right.
And then just to fast forward a little bit, my parents were always worried that I wouldn't be able to talk later on in life, or I wouldn't talk later on in life.
Right.
Well, my mom's friend's husband at the time, when she was helping him do his chemotherapy sessions, uh, he, he said to me, well, he said to my mom, he's like, don't worry about Jimmy never speaking, because at one day he'll never shut up. And he was right, because later on I still haven't shut up since.
Mm.
And it drives my parents nuts. Uh, but to fast forward on that, I was diagnosed with autism in third grade. My mom says fourth grade, but I like to argue third grade because I have the better memory, and I can memorize lines and stuff from TV shows,
Right.
books, and uh, and everything else.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
Yep.
I was like, "How dare you argue with me?" I was like, "You're gonna lose." And, but so people, like I said, people told me I wouldn't be able to read higher than a second grade level. I'm currently in college,
Mm-hmm.
and by the time I was in seventh grade, I was reading. In seventh grade, I read all the Harry Potter books,
Wow.
and uh, it was, yeah, it was. I was like, wow. Even if I didn't know a word or two, I went on Google to Google what this word meant, or I asked my parents, or I asked my teacher,
Yep.
my special education teacher. But my special education teacher at the time, she told me, is like, the books that the school is making you read in my class is too easy for you.
Right.
And I mean, and she didn't say it in those exact words, because she didn't want to like sound like, oh, you're smarter than everyone else, or you're in this, or in a stupid class, which is not, it wasn't a stupid class, uh, but but the books were too easy, and this, I felt like the school wasn't challenging me to my level,
Okay.
because like I said, they it's they try to fit. There's like those toys growing up. They where you fit the correct shape in the
Yeah.
right holes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
No,
That's right.
well, apparently I guess no one played with that when they were younger, because they try to fit a square peg in a round hole. And it's like, it
Mm.
just clearly doesn't freaking
Doesn't
work.
fit. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, somebody needs to go back to preschool and learn this. And of course, I didn't say any of that, because again, I was shy. I wasn't outgoing like I am now. I just
Sure.
kept to myself. And but so my teacher told me, it's like, try to challenge yourself. So I was like, well, how do I do this? And I was always a fan of the Harry Potter books, and I was like, I'm gonna go read these. So I just kept. So even though I didn't know what every single word meant at the time, I was like, I'm gonna go try this, and then I'm just gonna look it up on Google, and it worked. And I read all 7 of them in 1 year. I
Wow.
can I didn't know how to put it down. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And like, let's keep going. I went from, and during, uh, and like I said, I got bullied starting in fourth grade. It started with, it started with random questions that I didn't know answers to.
Yep.
Then it went to two girls kicking the seat on the bus, which was annoying. And
Mm.
then but then they got into a battleground in middle school, because I'm going to say idiot, and the reason why I say idiot is because some idiot did decide to make this game called, I don't even know what it's called, but it was slapping on people on the back of their necks.
Idiot is a good word.
Yeah, and it's like, well, gee, the most delicate part of the body, and let's go make a game of that. I was like, that's stupid.
Right.
And again, I don't know any of the rules. I didn't care to. I just like, this is dangerous for me because guess what? I mean, technically it's dangerous for everyone, but at the end of the day, it was also very dangerous for me because I have spinal stenosis in the top of my neck,
Right.
which makes it hard for me to move left and right, up and down. And so basically, what they, I was kind of fearing for my life at times because I could be paralyzed from the neck down if I get whiplash or
Right.
hit wrong in the sense of form.
Right.
And these people, and it was two bullies at the time, and I remember I cried each time they hit the back of my neck because it stung.
Right.
And my school, my school district was, let's just say, a little stupid. Not majorly stupid, just a little stupid. And one of the assistant principals, he said, bullying does not exist in the school. I'm like, you think I'm making this up? And it was like, I just was bored out of my day and I decided to come over to you to tell you. And again, didn't say at the time. I was just like, I feared every single thing. But I really wanted to say to the person at the assistant principal at the time, well, if you got out of your 2x4 foot office, maybe you'll see all the bullying going on. And again, should have, would have, could have.
Right.
But he didn't believe me at that time, and I reported it to him every single time it happened.
Right.
And I think in total between me, my sixth grade and seventh and eighth grade guidance counselor, I had him for 3 years total.
Right.
And my special education teacher, it was so between all three of us, it was 100 reports total by the time he finally listened. And I'm like, it shouldn't take you 100 reports to go do something. And it's like, and there was a few times where I told the head principal, she was, she meant business. When somebody comes to her for concern, she actually genuinely listens and is like, I'm gonna go look into this right now. And she's like, she wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna wait by the end of the week. She's like, no. I was like, I'll get back to you by the end of today, or I'll get back to you the next morning, because she had like a few other meetings or whatever. But she really meant business. And there was times where I remember seeing her in the hallway. The bullies didn't even bother to even like mess with me. But to fast forward a little bit, she finally got involved, and the assistant principal finally did something. So those two bullies left me alone.
Right.
But I was like, I feel like I'm dealing with Dumb and Dumb. I mean, just dealing with the first Dumb and Dumber, not the. The head principal was really good, but the assistant one, I was like, what do you do all day?
Right.
So in high school, those bullies kind of evolved from 2 to 3, but it wasn't the same 2. It was a whole different 3. And these guys made fun of me, my friends, and everyone else that I came in contact with. And they picked on me. they call me, they told me I was a retard. And I was like, just because take a pause for a split few seconds to create my sentence, just because because you know how many thoughts go on in my brain every single
Sure.
day?
Right.
It's a pain in the butt. And I have to tell my brain to shut up at night so I can go to bed. And sometimes that doesn't even work.
Right. Right. Right.
And so these guys tormented me for the next 3 years.
It's terrible.
And by the time when I got to 11th grade, I had enough of it, and I was like, I need to figure out something, and because this is driving me nuts. There was times I didn't even want to go to school anymore. Well, I mean,
Sure.
I never really liked my public schooling at all, so I absolutely hated school.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
well, I'm not going to hide I'm not going to hide that. And there was times where my parents literally had to drag me out of bed to go to school. It was just like, I was like, well,
I
you can
get
tell your
you.
grandma that you wouldn't be able, that you'll be the only uh, grandchild that wouldn't be graduating high school. And it's like, always got to play the grandma card, don't you? And it's like, damn. So I was like, I don't want to tell my grandma that. So I kept going, and finally, me and my dad found this. One day we were watching TV at night,
Mm-hmm.
and and me and him tried to lose some weight in the gym. I think we also tried losing weight at home. That didn't work. And we also tried a personal trainer for myself. But then like, I didn't really like that guy because, I mean, not because he wasn't nice or anything, but I always think for people who are giving directions or are mentoring someone, they
Yep.
should always take uh, what's the saying? Practice what you preach. That's what I was.
Sure.
And this guy was a personal trainer, and he didn't look like a personal trainer.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I was like, if you're going to be in personal training, I think you should supposed to be in shape a little bit.
Understood. Yeah, I know. No, it makes sense what you're saying.
And so, and again, as a kid, I was lazy. Uh, I didn't say any of those words at all. I kind of had that thought, but I was like, I'll just tell my parents this. But I still focus on video games, so I didn't really care one way or the other.
Right.
I never saw him ever again, so I don't know if my parents fired him or just he just never showed up or her again. I wasn't really sure. And then, but while me and my dad were watching TV, we saw this info commercial for P90X by Beachbody, and we was like, "What's P90X?" And so we just watched the info commercial. My dad's like, "Hey, let's go try it." So we tried it. By the end of the first week, when we did the program, uh, it was we were crawling up the stairs. It was so I was like, I didn't even know that I had muscles in part of this body.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And uh, I lost 30 pounds with P90X, and I felt I got rid of all my black baggy clothes,
Gotcha.
and I remember I had to upgrade my wardrobe just to
Sure.
get fitting out
Yep.
clothes. And I remember I had like muscle, not like super huge muscles, but still to a point that it probably would intimidate the three bullies, and I was ready to stand up against them. So basically, what happened at the end of math class, I decided to stand up to the bullies.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably wondering, it's like, you interrupted your math class? And I felt bad for my math teacher because I liked him, but I wanted witnesses because I didn't, as even though I know karate and I grew up doing karate,
Sure.
I was like, I don't like the odds of 3 against 1.
No, that's not good. And so what gave you the courage to do that?
Well, it was seeing the muscles in the mirror, and
Gotcha.
it was like, oh, this is gonna intimidate them,
Okay.
and 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 like it wasn't like big like The Rock, but it just felt good, and it was like I have the confidence. Let's go do this.
Perfect.
And
Make
I remember going
confidence.
over to the desk. I yelled at them. I cursed at them. I said every name in the book. And by the time when I was done, I was sent down to the principal's office. And my and the ironic part of it all, the head principal of my middle school went over to my high school,
Mm-hmm.
and so me and her had a history together, good and bad. But I don't think she ever held anything against me because she knew I was not one of the troublemakers because my report cards never showed I
Right.
was. So I just had mixed emotions and whatnot. And she actually at the time when I went to her office, she said to me like, "You're not in trouble." And I was like, "Huh? I'm not in trouble. I just said every single nasty word in the book I could
Right.
possibly think of." And she's like, I was like, "No, your teacher told me what happened." And it's like, "You stood up to the bullies, and it's like, I'm proud of you." 3 days later, she gave me an award for standing up on my own
Oh,
two
wow.
feet and standing up against the bullies.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the next year, though, in 12th grade, I had to deal with uh, a teacher who was somewhat of a bully as well.
Mm.
She told me I was always lazy, even though I was getting straight A's. I was like, well, that was lazy. Well, I wonder what she thinks of a C.
Right. Right.
And I remember that took about nearly all semester to get that straight. I mean, not semester, pretty much all school year to get that straight now. And how I did that was I reported her every single time to uh, different principals. I remember even telling her every time when I saw her while I was waiting to go into class, I was like, "Welcome to the gates of hell." I got that line
Mm.
off of a 2.5 Men, and 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 she never liked that, but uh, I don't think she ever reported me for
Right.
that's not remarks that I said to her because she didn't want to be in trouble herself
No, I get
either.
it. Sure.
And
Sure.
I admit probably shouldn't have done that, but I was like, I'm not going to be. I come to school to learn, not be called
No,
lazy.
no, and she was completely out of line, right? And that's the
Yeah,
thing. And no one should do that. And so where I'm really happy to hear is that, well, so a couple things, right? So you faced bullying, you stood up to it, obviously, but then it came up again. So I think that's an important message for people to understand that adversity is always going to come up, right? And we always have to stand up to it. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. So I'm really happy to hear that.
yeah.
When we talk about I talk about the birth of CrazyFitnessGuy and sort of how you landed there.
So, well, when I went into college, I was going for personal training, but let's just say after 5 different major changes, uh, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, math and science did not go together. And a fun fact that not everyone on the autism spectrum likes math or science,
Right.
and not like prodigies and really really good and at either one of them. And I I was like, okay, my two not my not I'm not strong in either one of them. I'm like, I know how to do math. I'm not very interested in science at all. And so I was like, okay, so if I'm gonna and so I changed my major to media studies. And when I changed my major to media studies after a few semesters, I knew I had to change what my website is about, but I didn't want to change the name because it was unique, it's memorable, and I was like, I really don't want to change the name. I went, I did all this work and I don't want to change it. So I changed it to, I still talk about health and wellness, but it's just strictly motivational. It's content through my autistic eyes, how to live healthy lifestyle through my autistic eyes. I have a podcast called CrazyFitnessGuy, Healthy Living Podcast.
Nice.
But uh, but basically, how I got into it all is my first uh, my first class in college. It was an English class, and my professor told us at the end of the semester my first essay looked like a giant mess. Even Captain Jack Sparrow couldn't find the treasure at the end of the treasure map. And he said, if you want to become a better writer, you gotta have to write every single day. And that dawned on me. It's like, what could bring me back every single day to write? And I was like, let's try a website. The first mistake I've ever made was as a website owner was starting with WordPress because that I was working 90 plus hours a week on that.
Right.
And because one plugin didn't work with this plugin, and then I was like, there's got to be a better way than this stupid piece of crap that I've seen. Uh, and but then, and as of now, this coming up April 12th will mark the 6 years of Crazy Fitness Guy being around.
Wonderful.
And my podcast will also be turning 3 years old. Don't let
Amazing.
Don't let the season 1 number fool you. I used to do seasonal, but I listened to a podcast episode recently that's well, if you don't talk about seasonal content like football seasons or baseball seasons, then you shouldn't do seasonal content. It should just continuation. So
Sure.
it's like, okay, let's go do it. And it's like,
Amazing.
screw it. So I have 41 episodes, and I have two podcast sponsorships now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It hasn't been easy. Boy, I wish it was.
You know what? Sometimes if the easy, you don't grow, you don't get better. I mean, I get it. It's not fun, but you in the long run, you're better for it. So I think that's something to be proud of. And I really love the way you're able to turn Crazy Fitness Guy into something that's beneficial to not just yourself, but others. So Jimmy, you should be really proud of yourself.
I am. And for those, just want to, and for those who don't know what Crazy Fitness Guy is, it's a website that for people on and off the autism spectrum to live a healthier lifestyle. And my vision is to help, my mission is to help people to understand what autism is, and it's not a disease and it does not need to be cured.
Great. No, it's a powerful message. I think that's an important one. Again, I'm familiar with it because I've got a child on the spectrum and understand it all so well. Everyone, I think what happens is sometimes people look at individuals on the autism spectrum and maybe they discount them or think they can't do certain things. But it's very clear to me that everyone has, this seed of potential to do something great, right? It's all inside them. They just have to bring it out. And so it's fantastic that you've brought it out, Jimmy. So I got to give you credit for that. And now you're helping others to recognize the same thing in others. So congratulations on all the great work.
Thank you. And also, real quick, yeah, I wouldn't be where I am without my parents or my special education teacher, and I wouldn't be where I am today in college without some of my amazing professors, because I my one of my professors I've had her for like 4 or 5 different classes so far, and I when I had her for public speaking, she at the end of the semester, my classmates voted me as one of the most I'm looking for the word. They voted me as one of the most. I had the word today too. Damn it.
Promising.
No, she voted me as one of the most
dynamic, talented, entertaining. What does the word mean, Jimmy?
It was persuasive. That's what it was.
Ah, persuasive.
Yeah.
There you go.
I see. I knew it was lost in my head somewhere, but it was one of the most persuasive speeches in the last week of class. And I wish I had a microphone during it because I wanted to leave with a mic drop. Damn it.
Oh, no problem. Well, I think you made an impact nonetheless, and it's fantastic to hear. I really think your story is a powerful one, and really happy to hear that you're an advocate for autism, as well as being an author, which is pretty exciting too, and a podcast. So you got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, my first co-authored book came out in January 11th this year, and
Congrats.
I just got invited to be a part of another one that I think is coming out in May of this year as well.
Congratulations. Well, we'll certainly keep an eye out for that. We'll let our listeners know. If people want to be connected to you or check out your podcast, where can we send them, Jimmy?
The best place is CrazyFitnessGuy.com. Between me and Crazy Fitness Guy, we have 100 plus profiles.
Wonderful.
And yeah, I probably should have stopped with just Crazy Fitness Guy, but when I posted a milestone about Crazy Fitness Guy just on their platforms, no one cared at all. But then when I created my profiles, everybody's like, "Oh, congratulations!" And it was like, "Oh, I guess no one really wants another brand of tooting their own horn." So,
Gotcha.
Then I discovered automation, and then it was like, "Ooh, I'm not going to stop."
Gotcha. Well, all right. Look, I appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best, Jimmy.
Thank you.
All right. Back we are here on the podcast, and I want to send my appreciation and thanks to Jimmy for being here and sharing his personal story and all the great things that he's doing now. And so congrats, Jimmy. Continued success. I absolutely love to hear the way that you've taken your adversity and challenges and turned them around into the great things that you're doing now. So continued success, my friend. You know, when I think back to my conversation with Jimmy, I really appreciated so much of what he had to say. But if there's just one thing I take from our chat, it would be this. It was Stevie Wonder who once said, "You can't base life on other people's expectations." Being blatantly underestimated is unfortunately a part of life for many people living with disabilities. It's super easy for someone to glean one small fact about another person and immediately doubt their ability to make any significant accomplishment to society or even contribute at the same level as others. Each and every single one of us are uniquely valuable and talented in our own special way. And people living with disabilities should be celebrated because of this, as opposed to made to feel that they're less than what they actually are or unable to measure up to others. Now, while on the surface, being underestimated may appear to offer little value, but let's realize it can do more than we actually think. Being underestimated provides freedom to find your own way, forge your own path freely and unassuming without the criticism of others or the naysayers. It essentially lets you take the risk others won't take. You can try things no one else is willing to try. When other people doubt you, it provides crystal clear vision. You know what's really important and you can go for it. You're not worried about what other people say about you. You're only worried about the end goal, and that end goal is what no one thinks you'll reach. And lastly, Being underestimated allows you the opportunity to recognize your true worth. And that's when we can rely on ourselves and prove others wrong. We've come to the end of another episode of the Audacious Living podcast. And as always, I send my thanks and appreciation to those lovers of audaciousness, you amazing listeners. I very much appreciate the tremendous ongoing support. And all I can say is thank you and send my appreciation. And again, thank you. I only can thank you. I can thank you again, but I say thank you one more time. Thank you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.